This happened in retail WoW for a reason, and it will happen in Classic too. What are we talking about?
Faction balance has been a pretty hot topic from day one of Classic. After all, it is one of the first choices you make when you commit to your character, Horde or Alliance. This choice will determine who you can interact with, trade with, communicate with, and play with before you can even log into the game. It's a pretty big deal. Okay. And on Classic, your faction matters. Well, it used to. Maybe that's less of the case nowadays. After all, we still do have the old school PvP and PvE server split, and being the minority faction on a PvP server is simply not an experience that many players would actively seek out.
Dude, remember this. Man, dude, remember doing this every week? It's a Tuesday night, it's a Wednesday night. We're going in.
Players would actively seek out. That lone warrior fantasy traveling the lands by themselves runs into problems when you realize so much of the content in the game quite literally requires a group, and you can't even go and pick herbs out in the open world without being ganked. Over time,
I very strongly think that the future of Classic WoW is hardcore content. We need hardcore servers. We need a big-ass, popping the fuck off hardcore server. It would be so good, bro. So many people would play that. It would be
we've seen a shift from somewhat balanced servers in the early days of Classic to the player base on the vast majority of servers actively sorting themselves onto realms where they are the majority. Realms where they are technically PvP tags, but where world PvP no longer happens. The 99% of one faction and the 1% of the other servers. And this has been a choice that the players have actively made, and that Blizzard has failed to stop. Nothing has really ended up changing with how the servers work. It's been like a copy-paste of what happened with the retail version of the game. Players realized more people are on a different server from themselves and ended up making the swap, be it from real money or a free transfer. Except in Classic, as it tends to be the case, things have happened at a much faster rate. After all, as we started with, your faction is inherently a massive restriction. It's required for such simple things in an online world.
World of Warcraft is what it is. If you're going to make a new MMO in the year 2023 or beyond, you should not have factions. You actually shouldn't even have servers. Both servers and factions, all they do is serve to fragment the player base and prevent people from playing together. If you're playing World of Warcraft, half the people I can't even fucking play with or interact with. I can't trade with them economically. I can't group with them. I can't even talk to them because of factions. That is that is needlessly splitting your player base in two.
And of course, players will trend towards the best, largest environment where interactions can happen. You might even think the game would do better without the restriction of factions. Let players choose their allies and their enemies within the game, instead of having such an arbitrary system which determines it for them. But then again, that wouldn't be very Classic-like, would it? And whilst the server situation may be a bit too far gone, if we look at the sources we have available, such as Ironforge.pro, about the total numbers of characters across both factions, they are not too far off from one another, about 47% Alliance to 53% Horde. A bit of a skew towards the Zogs, but nothing too crazy, I would say. If Classic has shown us one thing though, it's that if things don't change, history does tend to repeat itself. There's something which happened on retail World of Warcraft over a very long period of time, something that has started to happen during Wrath of the Lich King, and something that hasn't been fully remedied and embraced as a major expansion feature until Dragonflight. What started off as flavorful racial bonuses has escalated into things such as sharding, war mode, and finally cross-faction play. And the same problems that led to these solutions will happen in Classic. Today I'm going to explain why something so small as a difference in racial bonuses led to Blizzard breaking down the faction barrier nearly 2 decades later. Ulduar in Wrath Classic is the right time to be making this video too, because throughout Classic so far, you've nearly always gone into a raid thinking, I wonder what the bosses will be dropping tonight, not, I wonder if we're going to be progressing any further on this boss tonight. Sure, there have been fights with a degree of challenge throughout Classic so far, but Ulduar will be a step up on another level, since it's the first raid to ever offer an optional difficulty in hard mode.
What is the Ulduar progress split as of now? Let me pull up Warcraft logs. How are guilds doing in Ulduar in regards to hard mode boss progression? What is the split looking like? Okay. Okay. So you see this right here. You see a lot of guilds that have actually not killed a single hard mode. This means you have killed Yogg 4, you've done no hard modes. This is, you've done a full clear outside of Algalon, every boss easy mode. That's what this is right here. And then it's like, okay, we're throwing in some hard modes. This is like what, you've done every hard mode, but you haven't killed Algalon? This is 48, and Algalon is worth 5 points. This is, you haven't killed Yogg 1. Sorry, you haven't killed Yogg 0. You've killed Yogg 1. You've not done Yogg 0, and you haven't killed Algalon. That's you right here. There's a lot of guilds that are there stuck. True. And then this is just like, depending on which hard modes you've done. Yeah. So right now, Army of the Dead, we're like, somewhere around like 29 points or something. We're like somewhere in here. Early 30s, late 20s at the moment. Okay. Not bad. Who are these guys? We have killed one boss on easy mode, and then we gave up. Then we quit. These are the retail players. They went back to Raid Finder. They went back to Raid. Man, Ulduar was such a good raid. Let's go do it again. One boss, I'm bored. Back to Raid Finder. I'm out. Peace. I'm gonna go play my Dragusi back in retail.
Which has been specifically tuned up for a greater level of challenge. And whilst I can't say how Trial of the Grand Crusader or Ice Crown Citadel Heroic will measure up because we don't know if Blizzard's gonna be buffing them or not, this trend of a divide between normal mode and heroic mode only grows the longer World of Warcraft goes on. The first tier of Cataclysm, should we get there, will be hands down harder than anything in Wrath. And
here's kind of the classic WoW black pill at the moment. If you are bored of Classic Wrath, right now, if you're bored, you're going to be bored for another 6 or 7 months. Because we have TOC, that's also boring. TOC does not really add a lot to the game. ICC is probably 7 months from now, maybe 6, 7 months from now. So, yeah, you're gonna continue to be bored for 6, 7 months but then ICC is really good. ICC is cool. It's a good raid. And there's 3 new dungeons. ICC is a pretty good patch.
And it won't even be close. And as raiding gets harder, people look towards the top end for guidance, tips and tricks, and to see how they are setting up and building their characters, including, of course, racials. Now I just want to mention here, this isn't supposed to devolve into a what racials are best in Wrath Classic, or a classic good retail bad thing, or a but you guys have this for PvP so it's okay we have better racials in PvE thing. It turns out you give people a faction and they get rather tribal about it. And the thing is, we know for a fact which racials were better and which ones have the largest impact. A recent blue post on a change to Unholy Death Knight's Summon Gargoyle ability in Classic even highlighted a specific example where a racial made a huge difference to the point where this one race combined with this class and spec could beat anyone else in the game every single time. You can put 2 people of equal skill, equal gear, who get the same RNG during a fight against one another. Player A is playing a troll, player B is playing, well, it doesn't matter to be honest, because player A wins every single time. And player B probably isn't going to feel too good about that either. Berserking has to be one of the most extreme examples of a racial which was left overpowered for so long it's hard to believe. I went and checked and it was only moved down from 20% haste to 15% in Warlords of Draenor. This is just one example of a racial that more performance-oriented players may look towards though. Even in Wrath the Lich King right now, how big of a difference are these racials making at the top end? Well, I went through the logs for the top 100 players in raid damage for Phase 1, and have a guess out of the top 100 players, how many Alliance were there? If you said a grand total of 0, you would be right.
No,
top 100
the top 100 DPSs in the world, 0% are Alliance. And so this is what I'm saying, bro. Okay, listen. If I was Horde, I would be #1 in the world. I can't because I play a gnome. But if I was Horde, like my skill, my intuition, my gamer sense, I would be #1 in the world. But I don't play Horde. It is what it is. Feels bad. I got to take the L on that.
Logs for overall raid damage in Phase 1, 100% Horde. I thought there might have been 1 or 2, so I decided to extend the search a bit. How many Alliance are there in the top 1,000 logs for Phase 1? 1,000 is a big number after all, and yes, there is going to be a few. It's not that bad. But if you said there was, out of 1,000 logs, 56 Alliance, that would be correct.
Out of the top 1,000 Ulduar DPS in the world, 56 players are playing Alliance. That is freaking nutty. That is freaking insane.
Correct. And to be honest, the majority are in 2 guilds, which are setting themselves up for parsing success, but that's kind of how parsing goes. So overall, if we look at the population for Horde versus Alliance across all realms, you'll remember it was about 53% Horde players to 47%.
Despite being 50% of the despite being 47.4% of the player base, they only make up 5.5% of the top No, it's 0.55% of the top DPSers. Bro, that's fucking crazy.
Alliance. Now, if we look at the population for the top 1,000 performers in Phase 1, 95% of them are Horde, 5% are Alliance. But this all doesn't really matter, does it? The top-end Giga Min-Maxi players are always going to do the best thing for their DPS and for their character, and very high-end parsing is sketchy anyways. It's just creative loopholes to get around rules to inflate your number on a third-party website. This is just 1% doing 1% thing.
People like always like shout down parsing, bro. If there was no Warcraft logs, I probably wouldn't raid. Like, I just don't give a shit. I don't care about. I don't have fun with the social aspect of raiding. Really, it's like okay, but it's not. I'm not like a super social guy. I really don't even give a fuck about loot. The only reason I slightly give a shit about loot is because I need it to parse. If there was no parsing, I would not give a shit about loot. Loot is a tool. I totally do not understand people that are like loot whores. They're always making drama about loot. And you've all known someone like this. We all know a guy like this who's always complaining about loot, but he sucks dick. His parses are fucking dog shit. Like, how are you even in that mind? Like, what is wrong with you? I totally foreign. I totally don't get that. That's insane. That's insane.
Right. Well, sure, it is at the moment. It seems truly unimportant. And many years ago, this was also the situation on retail too. However, much like the servers going from relatively balanced to monofaction, this will have long-term effects. And it does start right at the top with the 1%. It also starts alongside raids getting harder. The top players start making the swap to the best race, not just to pass or to speedrun, but to get the first clears in gear which can barely scrape by the DPS requirements. And in Classic, we've had plenty of knowledge in advance of the faction to play to push before.
This is the other reality of being a top, and this is like especially true in Ulduar. It's especially true in Wrath, more than TBC, more than Vanilla. If you want to be a top parser in Wrath, and like it was kind of true for Vanilla, it's always true, but it's more true now than ever. You have to be poop socking split raids. Look at these top guilds, motherfucker. They're doing 3 Ulduar hard mode split raids a week. I'm telling you, like, these top players, these top performers, these top speedrunners, the guys going for world first, these guys going for top parses, these guys are fucking poop socking. They are poop sockers. That is fucking
more
true.
And more. And Warcraft logs that we just looked at, that really supports it as well. Raiding is also incredibly popular in Classic. Over the past 2 weeks, there were over 20 million individual passes logged worldwide. I think retail raiding picked up in popularity considerably over time too, but it isn't as big as it once was. Still, there is a lot more difficulties in retail, so it's kind of hard to see everything in one place. But as more people get invested into raiding and to look to the top end players for help, more and more people see the fact that if I really want to improve, I should be playing a certain faction. It leads to a mental reinforcement that if I want to be good and play with good players, I should be on the Horde. This is the point where it starts to not just be the 1% anymore. It's trickling down to players who are going to take 1 month to clear the latest raid, but see and think they need to be playing a certain faction.
So Blizzard added faction swap in the last week and a half or so. I don't know. Are you going to see a lot of the top guilds, a lot of the top alliance guilds swap Horde? Are you seeing top guilds on Benediction or on Firemaw? On Firemaw and Benny. Are these top players? Are they swapping Horde? I could see it. I could see it happening. And Blizzard did something that is actually absolutely shameless. Let me show you what they did. Blizzard knows the nature of the game. Not only can you just buy 1 faction change, you can buy 3 faction changes for a discount. You can buy 8. You can buy an 8 faction change bundle. This is Blizzard knows. Blizzard fucking knows how this plays out. They are on the ball with that.
And to do so, eventually Mythic raiding releases. Raids start getting even harder. We also have Mythic Plus, another feature that's only available to players on your own faction. By this point, there's been years of Horde dominance in the PvE scene. Do you want to guess when the last World First was won by an Alliance guild in WoW? It was Madness of Deathwing in Kata, and I'm just saying the world's best guild at the time, Paragon, who were Horde by the way, got a ban for this tier. That probably helped out the situation quite a bit, but after so many years of the thought that you should be Horde to compete and to be able to clear, it eventually came true. Enough of the player base that did want to push performance, that wanted to try high keys, that wanted to find a guild to move to Mythic, ended up moving to Horde. Alliance guilds made shifts towards playing on Horde servers and saw their pool of applicants go up 10 times overnight. Players invested in Mythic Plus made the swap and found the group finder full all day, every day. This was not the experience they could have had on the Alliance. And finally, from starting with the 1%, moving down to the semi-hardcore, this eventually hits the casual.
Dude, there is nothing that is like more depressing to me than this image. This image right here hits my soul. It makes my soul weep seeing an empty Stormwind. This really hurts my feelings seeing this. This feels so bad.
Players, and this is
it's like going back to the town you grew up in real life, and it's all full of like drug addicts, and like all the buildings are fucked up and everything. It's like walking through downtown Portland for me. Seeing an empty Stormwind is like walking through downtown Portland in real life. It just hits fucking different, bro. Feels bad.
This is where it really becomes a problem. My friends have moved to the Horde. I can't play the race I want to in a fantasy world due to faction restrictions. I was a casual player in a guild, and now they've left the server. They're all gone. Would you say this won't happen again on Classic, or the ball to get this whole situation rolling hasn't already set in motion? You know, the faction change feature in the cash shop came out in original Wrath, and Blizzard have mentioned plans to bring it back for Wrath Classic. It's just not in yet. There's going to be plenty of very swift re-rollers, I am betting. So can we stop this whole situation from happening again? Well, I mean, not having faction transfers helps a lot, if I'm honest. At least people who have invested so much into their character aren't going to want to make the swap, even if it meant they would be able to improve their raid performance. Perhaps this feature shouldn't come back to the game after all. Do we remove racials? I mean, it would certainly work in the most boring way possible.
Honestly, I am now a classic accelerationist. Just fuck my Wrath up. Just fuck it up real good. Add Pandorans, add race changes, add whatever. I don't even care. Add the black market auction house. Don't care. Fuck it, dude. So that we can realize how good vanilla is again. We'll say, man, wow, Wrath is all fucked up. Man, I guess we got to go play vanilla. We got to go play hardcore vanilla. That sounds good. And then we go back to vanilla. And boys, we're home. So I am now a classic Wrath accelerationist. Add faction changes. Fuck it up. Don't care. Whatever. Let's get over it. We're going to do ICC. We'll do TOC. We're doing it until then. And then we're back to classic vanilla hardcore servers. We're back. The boys are back in town.
And let's be honest, if racials were ever going to be removed, it would have been experimented with at some point by now in Arena, and it hasn't. I don't think this is even worth considering. Well, just to balance the racials then, duh. If only it was that easy. It can't happen ever, unless they are all the same. Racials are a choice, and when you have a choice, there will be better and worse. That's choice for you. So, should we just throw the floodgates open and have cross-faction play? If you remember, Classic has cross-faction battlegrounds, and has had them since as early as TBC. That certainly did not happen back in the day. If PvPers can have it, what about the rest of us? Or do we just not need to think about this yet? Cross-server play was a thing long before cross-faction came in retail, and for Classic, it doesn't look like we're getting cross-server for PvE anytime soon, if ever. We still don't even have the looking for dungeon system in Wrath Classic.
You know what they should do? I'm going to say something crazy, bro. Well, no, it's not crazy because we are now classic Wrath accelerationists, okay? So fuck it. It's actually not crazy. It's perfectly in line. When TOC comes out, they should add random dungeon finder and have it be cross-faction. Have it be cross-server and cross-faction, okay? Random dungeon finder, you can queue a heroic, do your heroic daily, whatever the fuck, cross-server, cross-faction. Send it, Blizzard. Don't care. Do it.
On top of that,
honestly, that would actually help a lot with people. It's less about like daily heroics and level 80 dungeons. It's more about trying to find a fucking Maraudon group. right? That would help a ton if you're trying to level a character, like a level an alt of yours and have fun while leveling, because it's very, very hard to do dungeons while you're leveling. If you're trying to do Scarlet Monastery Library, right? It's like impossible to do that right now. So you know what? Send it. Don't care. Do it, Blizzard. Why
Bigger
not?
servers in Classic are locked. Unless you already play there, you cannot move a new character there or make a new character. This has been the case for some time. One of the big things that kept the trend moving towards re-rolling Horde was that everyone knew the big servers, and since on retail they can split the population up via sharding, there weren't restrictions on the transfers as there have been in Classic. These two differences between the retail and the Classic versions of the game.
Hey Europeans, do you guys have a good PvP server still? On NA, we have Grobulus, which is hyper-based. I think Grobulus is probably the #1 server in the world. Hyper-based GigaChad Grobulus. I mean, you've got Name Drop, whatever server this is, the Russian server that's kind of a little bit sloppy. Anything else? Yeah, not really. You got the French server. Would you rather play on a lopsided French PvP server or a lopsided Russian PvP server? Ugh. How about I'm going to go play on Earth Fury instead. I would literally rather go play on Earth Fury with 4 other people. Fuck. Yeah, that's where I'm going. We're going to Earth Fury.
Might be bigger than we think. Overall, looking at the situation, for me, I've seen what happened in the past and how top-end players are already heavily trending towards Horde in Classic. I can't help but think what's happened in retail will repeat itself in Classic, and as per usual, at a considerably faster rate. Perhaps how the servers are in Classic with locks and no faction transfers is doing more work than we give it credit for, and this all won't be a problem until the casuals start to feel the effect, by which time, of course, it's far too late. But those are just my thoughts on the game after having played it for, you know, a little while. You reckon this will be an issue in Classic at all, where
WillE
everyone feels forced to go
WoW,
Horde eventually? And is there a solution to this which you think could realistically...
I think by the end of Classic Vanilla, WillE had leveled every class to level 60, every single one of them. I think he had actually multiple... I think Warlock is his main. He leveled multiple Warlocks to 60, and then every class outside of that to 60. I only had 5 60s. I had a Warrior, a Druid, a Paladin, and 2 Warlocks, because autism is why I did 2 Warlocks. But 5, he did like 12. He did like 12 of them, bro. The guy's insane.
Work. That's all for today, though. As always, thank you all so much for watching and to listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon.
Thank you, WillE. Thank you, Mr. WillE. All right, let me link his video. WillE does it again.